What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the July 17th, 2021 edition of Talking Smack. Coming off a very fun, newsworthy, and electric edition of SmackDown on Friday night. Talking Smack was a bit of a different formatted show this week. I don't know if this is going to be the norm. They haven't really given much of an update, whether this is going to be like the new thing going forward, and they rarely do. I mean, for example, when Paul Heyman left the show a few weeks ago, they never said that Pat McAfee was going to be his new host, or Kayla's new host. They just kind of made it sound like, oh yeah, Paul will be back next week, and he never came back. So things are always changing in this company. I would be honestly shocked if they went back to the way that it was before, and I hope they do, because I really love the chemistry that Kayla Braxton had with Pat McAfee, as well as Paul Heyman, and all the other people she's had on the show. And she was still technically a part of this episode, but just in the interview role. And what I mean is, so the actual show was taking place inside of a studio, probably at WWE headquarters, with Kevin Patrick, who does Raw Talk, and Matt Camp, who's on WWE The Bump and the Social Team and stuff like that. Both great guys. I thought they did an awesome job. And then they kind of threw it to interviews that Kayla Braxton did in the back after SmackDown with the Usos, with the SmackDown Women's Champion Bianca Belair, as well as somebody else. I forgot who the other person was. Oh, Finn Balor as well, who came back on Friday's SmackDown. So they had her kind of interview the talent. They had Matt Camp and Kevin Patrick in the studio. A bit of a different formatted show than usual. Probably because, again, they can't do it. They're not in the Thunderdome anymore. So I figured they would just do it backstage like they used to 5-6 years ago with Renee Young and all the other people they had a part of the original Talking Smack. And maybe they will at some point. They just didn't want to do it for this week. I have no fucking clue. But for this week, it was Kevin Patrick and Matt Camp in the host seat. And Kayla Braxton was kind of like their roving reporter, whatever the hell the term is, talking to the talent after SmackDown went off the air. They kind of recapped the night's biggest events that saw the Usos and Edge fall short against Roman Reigns and the Usos in six-man tag team action to start the show, as well as Edge and the Mysterios getting the upper hand afterward. They talk about Finn Balor being back and attacking Sami Zayn. They recap that. They recap Bianca Belair retaining the SmackDown Women's Championship and all this other stuff. Bianca was the first person that Kayla interviewed here on the show, and she said that the night was amazing. Really happy that the crowd was with her after the entire year of her not being in front of fans. I mean, she debuted her entire main roster career, for the most part, aside from winning the championship in the main event of Mania, has happened in, I mean, that was during the pandemic era as well. But everything else happened not in front of fans, like the Rumble win and all the matches she's had since Mania. So she was happy the crowd was with her, and she got one of the biggest reactions, if not the biggest reaction of the night. She responds to Carmella's Twitter complaining. I guess she went on Twitter afterward and complained about her loss to Bianca Belair. Belair responded by saying that, hey, listen, if she wants another shot, I'll be more than happy to give it to her. And it's been confirmed, I guess, Bianca and Carmella one more time next week. And not only again, but for this time again, for the SmackDown Women's Championship. From a storyline standpoint, doesn't make any sense. Not really. I mean, Carmella lost fair and square. There's real no reason to do a rematch. But listen, it's another fucking title match. They worked well together. Who cares? We'll just do it one more time. And I assume after Bianca beats Carmella again, then we'll get the return of Sasha Banks. So it's not really that big of a deal. But that was the interview with Bianca Belair. Matt Camp thinks that, again, like I said in my own SmackDown audio review yesterday, that Bianca's going to be one of the ones getting the biggest pops from the fans now that they're back, which I completely agree with. She's going to get one of the biggest reactions from the audience with just how over she is and all this other stuff. They then interview Finn Balor, or Kayla Braxton does, who says that he's glad to be back, and he said that was a hell of a pop, which it absolutely fucking was. They were as happy as I was, the crowd, that is. They were as happy as I was that Balor's back on SmackDown, which is probably the best landing spot for him over that shit show that's Raw, you know? And when asked by Kayla, like, why are you back here on the Blue Brand? What brought you back? And he said, listen, when I debuted, I was in NXT. I won the NXT Championship. I went to Raw, became the first ever Universal Champion. I became a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. I went back to NXT, regained the NXT Championship, and now I'm back here on SmackDown again to win championships. And the titles he mentioned just so happen to be on SmackDown, the Intercontinental title and the Universal title. So he's got some unfinished business, it seems, with both belts. And he was also grateful to have the fan support through the pandemic. And he says, buckle your seatbelts, we're going for a ride. So very happy to see Finn Balor back on SmackDown. Matt Camp and Kevin Patrick kind of tease him going after all the titles, and maybe he can go back after the Intercontinental Championship, which is my guess. Maybe he challenges Roman Reigns at some point, assuming Roman wins on Sunday, for the Universal Championship. Again, a title he never actually lost. And he did have a match with Roman for the championship a few years ago, but they can always run it back again anyway because they work well together. So they could do that. And they also said maybe he finds a partner and goes after the tag titles, which is also very possible. I don't know who that person would be, but that's also a possibility as well. At any rate, they also hype up the Usos versus the Mysterios for the Money in the Bank kickoff for the SmackDown Tag Team titles on Sunday. They talk about how the Usos might be feeling pressure here because if they don't win, it's kind of a must-win situation for them. They might get the blowback from Roman Reigns. They might have to suffer the consequences at the hands of the Tribal Chief. And they also mention, hey, maybe the Mysterios, that they're going to have to think more with their heads than their hearts here, because if they think with their hearts, they might just lose the SmackDown Tag Team titles. They interview the Usos quickly. Really nothing of note is said here, but Jimmy calls themselves, or Jay says they're the best tag team of all time, while Jimmy praises Mysterio as the best luchador of all time, and they just kind of simply vow to regain the tag titles on Sunday. Kevin Patrick specifically notices and brings up that Jimmy was the one praising the Mysterios, while Jay was the one, praising themselves and talking about how they're the greatest tag team of all time and not anyone else, including the Mysterios. So they picked up on that, meaning that there might be still some unsolved dissension among the ranks of Roman Reigns and the bloodline of the Usos and whatever. So Matt Camp says they're just playing mind games, and that's kind of like their their goal in this whole thing. Not that there's any tension, but that's their ultimate, goal is just playing mind games and walking out as the tag team champions. And then Matt Camp also says, listen, Edge may have lost tonight, but he stood tall over Roman Reigns, and he may just win gold again, the Universal Championship, the one championship that has eluded him up to this point in his WWE career at Money in the Bank. So, good stuff here. That was Talking Smack in a nutshell. Definitely a different show than usual. Not nearly as must-see. I enjoy the regular format with the elongated interviews and Caleb Braxton in the host seat with McAfee or Heyman or whatever. I don't know if they'll go back to that. Hopefully they do in the backstage setting, and they don't just do it the way they did here in the studio. The episode did go up a lot earlier than usual. Went up today like before noon, which was pleasantly surprising and made my job a whole lot easier. But I wouldn't say check out this episode of Talking Smack. There really isn't a lot to dissect here, but we did find out some breaking news. Like I said, Carmella, Bianca Belair one more time next week for the SmackDown tag titles, SmackDown Women's Championship. That is. So I look forward to that. Have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy Money in the Bank tonight. It's going to be a really fun show, I think, and never disappoints. Even the pandemic Money in the Bank was a fun one, in my opinion. The entire show was. So I look forward to the show tonight. Should be a good time. Raw on Monday as well. Slammiversary last night. SmackDown on Friday. It's a crazy long weekend with all the wrestling going on, with fans back. That's the real takeaway here. Enjoy it, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews. Have an awesome rest of your weekend. Enjoy Money in the Bank tonight, and I'll catch your ass down the road.